Okay, so I would love to introduce the next presenter, Mr. Lindsay. Mr. Lindsay Reid, the CEO of Minbos Resources Limited. Mr. Lindsay is a mining engineer with 30 years experience in exploration, development, operations, and corporate finance. Lindsay has worked in mineral sands, copper, tin operations, obtaining a mine manager certificate. After completing an MBA, he worked as a resource analyst in the Australian equity markets. Since then, he has started and managed a number of resource companies with projects in a range of commodities in Australia, Africa, and Asia. Lindsay has been a chief executive officer of Minbos since 2014. I would like to call Mr. Lindsay on stage. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Bill and the team for the invitation to come and present to you here at Africa Down Under. It's always a pleasure. Wonderful to follow my colleagues with the diamonds. Very good point that's made about securing your wife with a diamond ring. One thing I must say, though, is once you've secured that wife, you have to feed her. And then you have to feed her children, and you have to feed her family, and you don't know how big her family is until you've actually married her. And so I want to talk to you about making fertiliser. In Angola, I think 43% of the population is under the age of 16. So in the next generation, there's going to be many wives secured, and many children that need feeding, and many families that need feeding. Fortunately, Angola has the land and the water and the energy and the people and the space and the policies and the initiatives to fulfil this goal, and we're really, really pleased to be part of that. This is our business. We're our nutrient business. We are becoming a nutrient company to supply fertiliser to feed this wonderful country with its wonderful people that currently imports its food but is using the money it's making from diamonds and oils to build an agricultural sector. And agriculture needs nitrogen, phosphate, potassium, NPK. Currently it makes none. We're building a business in Angola that will make those fertilisers, but we're also bringing strategic partnerships into those businesses to build scale and strategic depth so that we can produce the economies of scale. Our phosphate project will supply our fertiliser business, but it also has the potential to double its scale economies by providing into a yellow phosphorus building for the electric vehicle industries in Europe and North Atlantic. Our green ammonia business, which I won't talk about much today based on the wonderful hydroelectric power that's available in Angola, will produce ammonium nitrate for fertiliser, but it can also be used for the region's mines, and we believe it will be very competitive in that area. And again, it will enable us to double our scale and capture scale economies. But today I want to talk about the fertiliser, and particularly Cabinda Phosphate Project. The Cabinda Phosphate Project and Angola are uniquely suited to one another, and I want to explain why. Firstly, not only Angola, but the whole of Central Africa, there is not a fertiliser factory for primary nutrients. Despite there being more than 200 million people in that region and probably going to be one of the fastest growing populations in the entire planet in the next generation, there's not one single primary fertiliser factory to support the farming. Everything will be imported unless it's naturally organic fertiliser. We want to be part of that, and we want to be part of it in Angola because the resources there. The agricultural potential of Angola is well understood. 57 million hectares of arable land, of which only about 5 million hectares is currently utilised. And you will see as I go through the presentation, ample rainfall and ample farmers. So the phosphate rock project that we're working on is in Cabinda. What are its advantages? It has a high phosphate grade. That's important because the more the better. The phosphate is reactive. What does that mean? It dissolves. which means the plant can eat it. You don't want it to be dissolve too fast or run away before the plant eats it, and you don't want it to dissolve too slow or the plant will die before it eats it. This phosphate rock seems to be perfect for the conditions in Angola. The project life is long, at least 40 years on our current phase. It's easily mined. That's the overburden there, and our gentlemen colleagues who are doing the due diligence on the yellow phosphorus are standing on top of the deposit, which is free digging, and you can easily just dig it up with a digger and put it on a truck. It's easily beneficiated. Over the 5 years of agronomic trials, we've established that all we really need to do is dig it up, crush it a little bit, and dry it, and put it in a bag, and it will be useful on the soil. So why are they work together so well? We have our project in Cabinda, which, if you weren't aware, is an exclave of Angola, and there's a little bit of DRC in between Cabinda and the other provinces of Angola. But there's a number of reasons why that Cabinda phosphate rock is both ideally suited to Angola, and Angola is both ideally suited to that phosphate rock. The first one is Angola has acid soils. This is not unusual for tropical countries, but the vast majority of Angolan soils have a pH of less than 6. Phosphate rock needs acid soil to dissolve at the appropriate rate to feed the plants. Angola has high rainfall. Most of the country gets more than 800 millimetres a year. Phosphate rock needs high rainfall to make sure that when the rock's dissolved, it gets to the plant. So the phosphate rock needs the conditions that Angola has. But on the other hand, Angola needs that particular type of phosphate rock that it has. Why? Well, firstly, Angolan soils are very, very low in phosphate. They are less than ppm, 10 ppm for most of the country, compared to potassium, which is 80, and nitrogen, which is much higher than that. Phosphate is the first need that is required for agriculture and the first limiting nutrient. But not only is there low phosphate in the soils, a lot of the soils in Angola are what we call P-fixing. At the combination of the acid and the combination of the high aluminium in the soil, if you put water-soluble fertilisers on there, the phosphate gets eaten by the soil and locked up before the plant can eat it. And so this particular phosphate rock that we have in Cabinda is so suited to these areas of Angola to be more efficient, or almost equally as efficient as water-soluble phosphates. And finally, 90% of the land of the farming land is farmed by smallholder farmers. 99% of the farmers are smallholders. These smallholders can't afford to lift the pH of their soil, so the Cabinda phosphate rock is an ideal solution for tripling their yields. We've trialled this now over 5 years in Angola in 6 different provinces, and that map shows the location of the trials. The trials have been run by the Agronomic Institute of Angola since, I think, 2019. And what we've showed is, compared to the water-soluble phosphates, the phosphate rock performs almost exactly as well, and much better than the control, and much, much better than the local practice. And as I said, I think we can easily show that we can drop our controller on the floor. So we can easily show that we can triple the yields for these smallholder farmers. Before we go to the field, we go to the greenhouse. And we've used the services of the International Fertiliser Development Centre in the USA to test things where we can do many more treatments and control the conditions a lot easier before we go to the field. What we've shown there is one application of phosphate rock in the first year works well. In the second year, without any further application, it works better because it keeps on giving. In the third year, it works even better again. This phosphate rock actually keeps on giving in the second and third year without the addition of any further fertiliser. That's yours truly, standing in front of the third crop, which is sorghum, a staple crop in Angola. I think that's 2021. I think at that time I might have been the only full-time employee for this company. I think by the middle of next year we'll have closer to 100 as our project goes into operation. I'm on my way home, interestingly enough, after being stranded in Angola for 8 months because my own city wouldn't let me back home due to COVID. That was a wonderful opportunity for me, and I'm forever be grateful to Angola for hosting me during that time. Right, I'm guessing I should not have dropped this. Can you advance the slide for me? I seem to have damaged the controller. Coming back to the crops that we use, like sorghum, the crop that this is a trial that we're currently running, and this is actually in sugarcane. And you can see that our trial, the areas around it were planted, this side of the road were planted at exactly the same time, and the sugarcane is performing very, very well. This is not unexpected. We expect sugarcane to work well, and the crops that are favoured by direct application phosphate rock are long duration crops, or perennial crops where they have a good opportunity to utilise the phosphate rock. And we're really, this is a much better result than we were anticipating and attracting a lot of interest for us. Agriculture, I think, can become bigger than oil as an economic contributor in Angola. It's very easy to demonstrate that only 3 million hectares of Angola operating the efficiency of agriculture in with Brazilian best practice can drive economic activity around about the same size as the oil sector in Angola. Angola has 20 times that amount of land to utilise. But it takes more than just fertiliser to unlock it. You have to have the farm, you have to have the knowledge, you have to have the training, you have to have the fertiliser, you have to have transport, you have to have a market, and you have to have food processors. Minbos has done a deal, an offtake arrangement with a group called Carrinho, and Carrinho is a large food aggregator that's targeting exactly the same smallholder farmers that we are, and 1 million of them over the next 10 years. Carrinho wants what they grow, we want to give them the fertiliser to help them grow. We're closing what I call the prosperity loop. You can't just exist with the elements in that loop. You also need to have proper policy and initiatives from the government, and the government of Angola is taking those initiatives driven from the president down. The Carrinho Group, for example, is one of those initiatives. It benefits from a sovereign guarantee that enables it to be there. A farmer will only grow what they want to eat unless there's a market for them. Angola is creating markets and the conditions to close this prosperity loop and turn Angola into an agricultural powerhouse in Africa and probably in the world. So this is a description of our project. It's small. In Angola, it's a pequeno projeto, grande impacto. It's a small project, but it's going to have a massive impact in this country. We are running a little bit behind our schedule on where we'd want to be, but that's allowing us to pursue 3 things. 1, non-dilutionary funding. We're trying to attract funding in that will not dilute the existing shareholders. If that takes us a couple of extra months when we're trying to build a multi-generational income stream, then I'm happy to do that. We're also trying to build partnerships with strategic partners and bring those in. And on an operational level, we have the opportunity to put in place some turnkey supply packages, which takes the risk away from all of the financiers. But we are progressing. We've started the construction. We've got all the team on site. I think today we announced that we'd finalised the resettlement process for the 41 farmers who were located on our little deposit in Cabinda. So that's Minbos. I would love to talk about our green ammonia project, which I think is the most compelling in the world. I'd love to talk more about agriculture. I'd just like to leave you with the message that I think this is a wonderful country. Having lived there during COVID for a year, learning some of the language, meeting many of the people are wonderful. The progress they've made in the mining sector, I can only reiterate the comments. The administration, the procedures, this has changed so much in the last 7 or 8 years. I think I found on my jump stick today my first ever presentation that I gave on Angola. I think I was the only one here talking about Angola. Half the audience didn't even know if it was in Africa. And now we have 4 people up here presenting different companies. We also have Rio and Anglo and De Beers in the country, some Chinese companies, some Brazilian companies also there. You don't have to be there tomorrow, but you do have to be there soon. The investment opportunities and the opportunities in a population that is so young, growing so quickly, has energy, has water, has land, has people, has policies and initiatives, is, I think, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I wish I was 40 and I would move there and take these opportunities. Thank you for your opportunity to speak to you. I appreciate that. You have an opportunity to follow us, invest in us, help us. Please come by our booth if you want to be involved. We'd love to share our experience with you and your experience with us. Thank you.